Hello and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since my last video essay, so I first want to take this time to thank everyone who were patient during my break from making video essays. During this time away, I have been doing a lot of research to make better content for you all, and now that we have a title for the third and final installment of the Final Fantasy VII Re-Trilogy, Final Fantasy VII Revelation, I'm excited to make content on this beloved compilation. So what better way to start my return than to talk about the event at the center of it all, the Nibelheim Incident. Of course, I have to issue a spoiler warning right here that I will be talking about what happens in the OG, Crisis Core, and Rebirth. So if you haven't played those games yet, I highly recommend that you play them first. The Nibelheim Incident takes place 5 years before the events of the game, and is the catalyst that drives the plot and the characters, namely Cloud, Tifa, Sephiroth, and Zack. I'm going to focus on how the Nibelheim Incident is told in Rebirth, OG, Traces of Two Pasts, and Crisis Core Reunion, and how it fits in the story structure and what makes it compelling narratively speaking. So let's get into it. There are 7 types of story structure, and I believe Final Fantasy VII to fall under a combination of classic story structure and Freytag's Pyramid. I believe the Nibelheim Incident is written into the DNA of every component of how the internal conflict and story is structured. Classic story structure goes as follows. Number 1. Exposition. Establishes the protagonist's life and greater desires, and usually culminates in the inciting incident. I believe that in a way the Nibelheim Incident can fall under here, since it is the incident that begins it all. 2. Rise in action. The protagonist pursues their new goal and is tested along the way. It is during the Rise in Action section of the story, their journey pursuing Sephiroth, that Cloud tells the party about the incident and why they're after Sephi. 3. Climax. Our hero achieves their goal, or so they think. I believe this to be at the Northern Crater where the Jenova reunion happens, and Sephiroth reveals to Cloud that the soldier that went to Nibelheim wasn't him. 4. Fall in action. The hero must now deal with the consequences of achieving their goal. Cloud loses all sense of identity, gives the black materia to Sephiroth's real body, he falls and gets washed up in mid-deal, becomes Mako poisoned and catatonic. Tifa takes care of him until the lifestream surging causes the ground to collapse and they fall into the lifestream. 5. Resolution. The conclusion tying together the plot, character arcs, and themes. This is the lifestream sequence where Tifa helps Cloud regain his true self through confronting his true memories. The linchpin that holds it all together is what really happened during the Nibelheim Incident. This is how Freytag's Pyramid goes. 1. Introduction. The status quo is established, an inciting incident occurs. 2. Rise in action. The protagonist actively pursues their goal. The stakes heighten. Climax. The point of no return from which the protagonist can no longer go back to the status quo. 4. Return or fall. In the aftermath of the climax, tension builds and the story inevitably towards 5. Catastrophe. The protagonist is brought to their lowest point. Their greatest fears have come true. Why I feel that Cloud's internal conflict and story falls under the Freytag Pyramid is that the description of the climax, return or fall, and catastrophe more accurately describes how devastating learning part of the truth is to his tightly held perception of his own reality. It led to him losing all sense of self and autonomy. He is brought to his lowest point, and his greatest fear of losing himself completely comes true. What is at the center of that? The Nibelheim Incident. So I believe that we're getting a combination of the classic story structure and Freytag's Pyramid up until the falling action, then we get the resolution from the classic structure. Now I want to actually zoom into the details of what happens in the Nibelheim Incident, with each telling starting with Cloud's telling, then Sephiroth's telling, the livestream sequence, and finally Zack's telling in Crisis Core Reunion. I will also talk about some events that surround it, like the incident on Mount Nibel and Zack's journey after the incident, because they give extra context as to why the Nibelheim Incident stuck so much to Cloud and Tifa as well. Of course, there are some elements that stay the same in each retelling, so I won't focus so much on those every time, beyond acknowledging that they are the same. Finally, I will go over why this incident is so compelling from a narrative standpoint and the greater themes behind it. We first hear about the incident while they are at the inn in Calm after escaping Midgar and learning that Sephiroth is somehow around. The party decides to ask Cloud the lore of what connects him to Sephi. 5 years ago, he was 16 and there was hardly any work for soldiers then, and his heart wasn't in it. Then, he got to go on the mission of a lifetime to survey the broken reactor in Nibelheim where he grew up, along with Sephiroth, whom he looks up to because he's a hero. His story starts in a cargo van and he's checking in on someone who is motion sick. He says he can't sympathize because he's never been motion sick. Then he starts doing squats. His body language is interesting as he interacts with Sephiroth too. It doesn't seem quite like the Cloud we know. They run into fiends and Sephi one-shots one of them. Cloud is in awe, gets knocked down, and Sephi takes care of it. It becomes obvious to Cloud just how OP Sephi is compared to everyone else. Tifa explains that Nibelheim had the first reactor and that fall there was something wrong with it. Monsters started showing up and people were scared, so they called Shinra and Shinra sent the best. When they enter the village, Sephi asks him how it feels to be home since he doesn't have one, so he doesn't know how he would feel. He only knows that his mother's name is Genova and died after he was born. He just laughs when he mentions his father. Then he says Cloud can go visit friends and family. When Cloud goes to the water tower, Tifa asks how he felt, and he says, "Nostalgic after 2 years away." She responds with a skeptical, "Uh-huh." In the hotel, he runs into Zangan, who tells him he could learn from him and he's teaching Tifa. She's talented and will go far. He goes to see his mom. His dad died when he was a kid, so when Cloud left for Midgar, his mother was all alone. This was the first and last time he saw her in 2 years. She's really shocked and happy to see him and asks like a typical mom. He PTSD glitches a lot while telling this part of his memory. She's proud of who he has become and says she'll feel better about him being around the temptations of the city if he found a good girl. I won't get into this because I don't want to get into the shipping debates in this video, but she's talking like a typical mom here. He's reacting to what she's saying like a teenager would. This is to make her loss more poignant. After this particular conversation, there's lots of glitchy cut-off dialogue from her as his PTSD is really acting up. In the present, Cloud says, "That's enough." Cloud says the signs were all there that Sephi wasn't being himself. At the hotel, he tells Cloud that he's seen the landscape before, even though he has never been to Nibelheim. He then tells Cloud to get some rest because they'll go up to the reactor tomorrow. The next morning, he finds out that Tifa is their guide. She claims to be the best there is. He's worried she'll get hurt, and Sephi assures him that he won't if he'll do his job. They get their picture taken. During their journey up the mountain, Cloud gets really confident and wants to take the lead. At one point during a battle, an infantryman tries to protect Tifa and gets knocked down in the process. Sephi commends him for trying, Tifa thanks him, and the camera cuts immediately to Cloud after. After that battle, he says he'll clear the way and does some squats. They cross the bridge over the Gunthrow River, which snaps. They first hang on the ropes and then fall into the river. Sephi catches Tifa while Cloud catches an infantryman, but one gets lost to the river. Tifa doesn't want to continue the journey, but Sephi insists that she would be safer if she continues with them. They find another way up, and during that journey, they find a cave with naturally formed materia in a Mako spring. Sephi says it's incredible because it must have taken forever to get this big. He also brings up Hojo and says he's anything but great. Right before the boss battle with the Materia Guardian, the remaining infantryman escorts Tifa out to safety. During the battle, Sephi tells Cloud that he's practically panting and calls him a puppy. Barrett says that it sounds like Sephi was a good dude. Cloud affirms that he was. When they reach the reactor, Sephi tells Tifa that she isn't allowed inside and asks the infantryman to keep her safe. When they enter, the man stops Tifa from going in and she stomps in frustration. The reactor is overseen by research and development, so they're not to speak about what happens there. Before entering the reactor itself, Sephi asks if he'd like to say a few words to his sword first. An interesting thing to ask Cloud. Inside, they get ambushed by one of Hojo's experiments, which Sephi quickly dispatches. Cloud notices the containers, and Sephi notices the placard that says Genova. The pods are suddenly releasing steam from easing pressure and are about to open, so Sephi tells Cloud to shut off the valve. While he's doing that, Sephi is cutting up the pods. He explains that Hojo repurposed the pods that were originally used for harvesting materia to instead hold animals in and infuse them with Mako to create new monsters. He didn't stop with animals, and here Sephi points out a humanoid and releases it. Then Sephi glitches and wonders if he was created the same way. He always knew he was different, but not like this. Then he kills the humanoid and asks himself if he's even human. They get back to the inn, and Sephi locks himself in his room. He leaves without telling anyone where he was going. Cloud finds out that he was seen going to Shinra Manor. There he finds the basement and finds him there in the library. He had found a record about Jenova being excavated from a 2,000-year-old rock layer by Professor Gast in 1977. She was verified as an ancient, and the Jenova project was approved. He starts piecing things together while muttering to himself. He asks Cloud to leave him be. For 7 days, he's in the library reading like a man possessed without stopping to eat or sleep. On the night of the 7th day, Cloud's mulling over everything in phrasing, cadence, and mannerisms that are different. He decides to go ask Sephi, who is still reading. He informs Cloud that he read something interesting. Jenova smiled with ethereal grace. She was classified as an ancient and was named Jenova. The Jenova project was approved to resurrect the ancients. Those experiments resulted in his birth. The crowning glory of Professor Gast's experiments. He wasn't actually born, he was created. Sephi glitches and looks very predatory, cat-like, and menacing. He says that he should go because Mother is waiting. Cloud tries to stop him and he throws him across the room. He reaches for him before blacking out. In the present, Cloud beats himself up for not coming to sooner because maybe he could have saved the village. Tifa has an interesting reaction to this. He leaves the mansion and sees the village is on fire. He finds Zangan, who tells him to help the villagers. He decides to check on his mom. The trooper is lying on the ground in front of his house, asking Sephi to stop, then says, "Ma." Then Cloud calls out to his mom, opens the door, and is blasted to the ground.
Run away. You have to leave. You have to live.
Were the planet to die, so many things would be lost. Your hometown had burned so bright. The sound of her voice, pleading for me to spare you. The shiver of her flesh yielding to cold steel. That which binds us together would be no more, and I would be loath to live in such a world, which is why I must ask you this one favor. Don't worry, it's a simple thing. Run, Cloud. Run away. You have to leave. You have to live.
You bastard!
He blacks out and hears a militia man who is about to help him when he gets run through by Sephi. As Cloud crawls over, he witnesses other murders, including Mayor Xander's. Sephiroth tells Jenova to wait because he's coming. Cloud stands in his way, but he keeps going as if he didn't see Cloud. Cloud calls his name, and we get the iconic scene of seeing his face in the flames before walking away. He follows Sephi to the reactor. Tifa and her father had gone there to hide. Brian Lockhart decided to confront Sephi when he showed up and murdered him. Tifa found him dead.
It was Sephiroth, wasn't it? He did this, didn't he? Sephiroth. Soldiers. Mako. Shinra. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of all of this!
She takes Sephiroth's Masamune and goes after him. He's at Genova's door and says, "Mother, I have come for you. Now open the way for me."
You murdered my dad! You burned my village!
Cloud finds her, sees her blood on his hands, and carries her. She reminds him of their promise. He lays her down in front of a pod and then goes after Sephi, who has reached Genova, saying that together they will reclaim their world. He mentions the Promised Land.
Sephiroth!
Mother, they have come again. The ones who robbed you of the planet. Your planet. But there's no need to be sad, Mother. Because I'm here for you. Now and forever.
You killed my mom. You killed Tifa. My village. My home.
They were mine by right. This planet too, for I have been chosen.
I believed in you. No. Not you! Whoever the hell you are!
Cloud doesn't remember anything after that. Aerith brings up that she was with Elmira when she saw the news from then that Sephi was KIA. Cloud points out that they saw him in Midgar, and that must mean that he's alive somehow. Aerith clarifies that it's more like he's around. Tifa asks, why come back now? After 5 years, doing who knows what? Cloud glitches, then says to finish what he started. Tifa asks, after 5 years? That detail is really bothering her. They decide to turn in after that. In their room, Tifa tells Aerith that she's been wondering what Cloud has been doing for the past 5 years. Where has he been? She's asking because she had a feeling that Aerith would know. Aerith guesses that she might have at some point, but the Whispers probably took that away. Tifa then confesses that as far as she knew, Cloud was never in Nibelheim 5 years ago. So what we can see here is that there are some things that are off about Cloud's telling of the story. The way he's acting and talks in the memory is interesting. There are gaps in his memory as well. Tifa's reactions are interesting, as well as her telling Aerith that as far as she knew, he was never there. This is driving a lot of suspense and is introducing narrative inconsistencies, with Cloud being an unreliable storyteller. Cloud has actually become self-aware of this as time goes on. In Gongaga, he confesses to Tifa that he forgets things everyone else remembers and knows things that he has no right knowing. It's like there are different people inside of him, and he can't tell where they end and where he begins. He thinks it's the degradation. This begins to really show when they go back to Nibelheim later in their journey. At the inn, he remembers Zack talking about Aerith. After recalling the memory, he remembers his name is Zack Fair. He's head over heels for Aerith. They fought together as soldiers, and he came with him on the mission 5 years ago. He keeps glitching and then wonders what happened to him. On their way up to the reactor, and while crossing the bridge over Gunthra River, he glitches and sees that Zack was the guy who was lost to the river. Cloud admits to Tifa that he quote-unquote remembers what happened to Zack and that he thinks he's dead. He confronts her, saying that's why she's been acting weird. She explains that she didn't want to upset him. He keeps going, saying that Zack was his friend, and how could he forget him? Then he thinks it's the degradation. Tifa reassures him that he remembered and it'll be okay, but she looks like she's trying to convince herself. When they find that cave with the naturally formed materia, Cloud starts saying the same shit Sephi said 5 years ago, which alarms Tifa. Then in the basement of Shinra Manor, he finds a room with pods inside and starts glitching. He hears Hojo's voice talking about samples of DNA for Project S. These additions in Rebirth of Cloud quote-unquote remembering Zack admitting to Tifa that he's struggling with identity and showing more of his PTSD episodes, is actually expanding what's going on with his internal conflict, and the Nibelheim Incident is the centerpiece memory of it all. So these are the details of the exposition and the rising action. Now we are ready to talk about the climax, fallen action, catastrophe, and the resolution using the OG. I'll be using traces of 2 paths during this section to point out any corrections and retcons. The party makes their way to the northern crater after Aerith's death to go after Sephiroth. There he shows up to show Cloud who was really the other soldier at Nibelheim. Cloud thinks it's an illusion made to confuse them. As long as they know that, there's nothing to be afraid of. They see Sephi enter the village, the 2 infantrymen, and then someone with black hair. Tifa tells Sephiroth to stop. Cloud thinks the whole thing is stupid, and Sephi laughs. They see Nibelheim on fire and the Shinra mansion. Cloud guesses that it won't be him that's leaving the mansion, and it'll be another illusion. Sure enough, it's not him who runs out. Zangan asks the guy to help him. Tifa doesn't want them to watch. He gets asked to check the house the trooper is in front of. Cloud addresses Sephi to say that he knows he wants him to say that he wasn't in Nibelheim 5 years ago. Sephi appears and says that he finally understands. Cloud is still in denial, thinking that he's trying to confuse him. He insists that he remembers feeling the fire and the pain. Sephi responds, saying that he is a puppet who is incapable of feeling any pain because he doesn't have a heart. He tells him that what Cloud remembers is the illusion. Cloud doesn't want to understand, but also wonders why Sephi is doing this. He responds saying that he wants to take him back to his true self, the one who gave him the black materia, and here he reveals that Cloud is a failed experiment, and Hojo would die if he knew that Cloud was actually useful. Cloud asks what Hojo has to do with him. Sephi explains that after the incident, Hojo created him, a puppet made of Jenova cells, her knowledge, and Mako. He's an incomplete Sephiroth clone without even a number like the other robed dudes. Tifa tells him not to listen. He asks why, since he's not affected by it. She says Hojo creating him is a lie. They have their memories together after all. Sephi asks why these words scare her and if he should show what's in her heart. Cloud asks her if Sephi is right. He says she shouldn't be scared because he won't believe him. He acknowledges that he knows that he's fucked in the head and is confused about who he is, but her recognizing him angers him. He's Cloud of Nibelheim, who grew up with her. That is the truth, even if he loses faith in himself. He tells her, "No matter what anyone else says to me, it's your opinion that counts." She says that's not true. He asks what isn't. He's the same Cloud she knew. She doesn't know how to say it and needs time to figure it out. Sephi tells him not to blame Tifa because Jenova has the power to change someone's appearance, voice, and words. Inside of him, Jenova merged with Tifa's memories to create him. A boy named Cloud might exist in her memories. This definitely tracks because in Rebirth, Sephi is constantly trying to sow discord between Cloud and Tifa by gaslighting him into believing that Jenova is cosplaying as her. He knows that Tifa is the key to Cloud unlocking his true memories and therefore his true self. Tifa tells Cloud not to think, and Sephi counters telling him to think and tells him that he never had a name. Sephi brings up the photo they took together before going up Mount Nibel. He takes the picture from the dead photographer in the memory. It's the black-haired soldier, not Cloud. Cloud still insists that this is an illusion. He recounts his memories around the incident. Then he wonders when he entered Soldier and how. He starts freaking out about why he can't remember. He then snaps out of it and insists that they keep going. Shinra comes to the area where Sephi's real body is preserved. The party shows up. Cloud tells them that bad things will happen there and they should leave because this is where the reunion is happening. In my playthrough, a Deceiver at 13 gives Cloud the black materia. Tifa is calling for Cloud to stop, but he can't seem to hear her. Sephi calls to him in his mind to give him the black materia. Cloud thanks everyone and then apologizes, especially to Tifa. He never lived up to being Cloud. Then he tells Tifa that maybe someday she'll meet the real Cloud. Hojo says his experiment is a success and asks Cloud what his number is. Cloud says he doesn't have one since he's a failure. Hojo is incredulous. Cloud then asks him to give him a number. Hojo explains to Rufus that the real Sephiroth died 5 years ago and he created Cloud, but he was a failure. He's not happy about the failure part, but after waiting 5 years, his Genova reunion theory finally came true. Cloud realizes he wasn't pursuing Sephiroth. He was being summoned by him. He is there to give him the black materia. Then he finds the preserved body. Hojo is losing it in his excitement. Rufus takes everyone with him to evacuate. The party calls out to Cloud to stop, but he still gives the black materia to Sephi's body. Cloud and the body fall, and an explosion happens while the weapons come out. The party escapes on the high wind. Sephi's retelling of the incident is only telling part of the truth, with the goal of making Cloud question his entire existence. He is doing this to gaslight and manipulate Cloud so that he will lose all his sense of self and fully become his puppet to give him the black materia. Tifa can't help him here because she doesn't know the full truth either, so this causes Cloud to plummet further into catastrophe. Tifa recalls finding a catatonic Mako poison Cloud in the Sector 7 train station. He recognizes her before she recognizes him, and it makes him responsive and act like the soldier persona Cloud we all know. She tells him that he doesn't look well. He keeps glitching but tells her that he's fine. She asks how long it's been, and he tells her 5 years. But according to her, it had actually been 7 years. He joined Soldier but quit after the incident and is now a merc. He told her his story, but she felt there was something off about the things he said. Things he didn't know that he should, and other things that he did know but shouldn't. Then he told her that he was planning on leaving and she didn't want him to, so that's why she told him about Avalanche. She wanted to watch and be with him. I need to interject here for a moment to talk about Tifa. She gets a lot of shit for not telling Cloud that he wasn't the soldier who came to Nibelheim and gets blamed for him losing his mind. I feel that this is a disingenuous take. In Traces of Two Paths, she tells her story about being in a month-long coma after being mortally wounded by Sephiroth in the chest. I think this factors into her not knowing what to think. She is questioning her own sense of reality because of her trauma, while witnessing the person she loves slowly losing his mind right in front of her. She's not maliciously keeping things from him. She's trying to make sense of the reality while walking on eggshells around him to try to keep him from losing it completely. The fact of the matter is, it's a very sensitive, confusing, and delicate situation. She wants to understand why he knows things he shouldn't, but doesn't know things he should. She's also known him since childhood and knows that he's not acting like his true self during the course of their journey. But she doesn't want to exasperate Cloud further and lead him to losing his mind sooner than he does. It's a very delicate operation that they're pulling, and the fate of the entire planet is at stake. She doesn't know exactly what is the best course of action. In Rebirth, she tells Aerith, and Aerith also decides to keep this information from Cloud. So let's not put selective blame for the sake of invalidating ships and in turn commit character assassination, and maybe think that they were trying the best they could with the situation at hand. Let me ask you what you would have done in their shoes, and to think about what would have happened as a result. Anyway, I will say that it took her too long to figure out what to do, and he did lose himself at the worst time possible, but this is important to the climax of the plot. Her knowing what happened and not knowing what to do with this information increases suspense and tension. Then she becomes the key to the resolution since she shares crucial memories with Cloud and knows the real him. She is instrumental to the resolution of the internal plot, which we will now discuss with the livestream sequence. They find Cloud catatonic, who had washed up in Medial about a week after the events at the Northern Crater and ended up at the clinic. Tifa decides to stay with him while the party leaves to go after the large materia. When they come back to see him, the ground shakes. Cloud finally speaks up, saying, "They're coming." The life stream is gushing up to the surface and a weapon shows up. After the battle, Medial becomes very unstable and the ground starts collapsing. It's too late for Tifa to escape with a wheelchair-bound Cloud, and they fall into the life stream. Lost in the dark, Tifa calls out to Cloud and ends up in his memories and subconscious as he's trying to look for himself. She decides to help him do it. They start at Nibelheim. She points out that it's their Nibelheim. They see Sephi and it's the same dialogue. Cloud shows up and she shakes her head and says no. She explains that she hid the truth from him because she was afraid that something bad would happen if she told him the truth, but she's no longer going to hide it. She tells him that he wasn't there 5 years ago. She had waited for him, but he never came. She tells him that he has to find the answer for himself, but they can take their time trying. The other memory is their promise. This memory made her think that he's the real Cloud. She believes that he is the same Cloud as the Cloud from Nibelheim, but he needs to believe in himself. It's not enough, they need to look at more memories. She asks him why he wanted to join Soldier in the first place. He said that he wanted to get noticed and felt like he needed to get stronger in order for that to happen. He wanted her to notice him. It was because of a memory that she forgot, the incident on Mount Nibel when she was 8. She lost her mom and decided to go up Mount Nibel, where, according to traces, it was believed that the souls of the dead went. The other boys at first followed, but then turned back. But Cloud continued. In an accident, they both fell down the mountain. Cloud only got scraped up, but Tifa fell into a week-long coma. He failed to catch her in time and got blamed for the whole thing because the boys told the villagers that he egged her on. Brian Lockhart hated him for it. Cloud was angry at himself for being too weak to save her, and he felt like she blamed him, so he went out of control and got into fights often. Then he heard about Sephiroth and felt like if he was strong like him, she would notice him. She expresses regret for not remembering and therefore not doing something. I wonder how this is going to slightly change in Revelation, since in Rebirth, they already talked about this incident after her experience in the livestream in Gongaga. She says that this memory is proof that he wasn't created 5 years ago, so they decide to go back to the Nibelheim incident. This time they go to the reactor. They see Tifa get cut down, the soldier coming in and yelling at Sephi. Cloud remembers that this is Zack. Tifa tells him that's correct. She asks him where he was. Zack gets thrown out of the main reactor room and she asks Cloud if he saw it all. He says he saw everything, and we see an infantryman in shadow who grabs the Buster Sword from Zack, goes in, stabs Sephi, and then takes off the helmet to reveal Cloud. This scene makes me cry every time. She realizes that he was there the whole time watching over her. He was her hero all along. Zack asks him if he's feeling sick to take the helmet off in the cargo van. Cloud tells Tifa that he never made it in Soldier. He left Nibelheim saying he would, but he was so embarrassed and didn't want to see anyone, so he kept the helmet on to hide from Tifa. According to traces, he only told her about wanting to make it into Soldier. Claudia didn't even know until Tifa told her. So he wasn't afraid of facing everyone so much as facing her because of his insecurities. Tifa realizes that he really did keep his promise. He carried her body to the pod and apologized for not getting there sooner. Sephi came through with Genova's head. Zack told Cloud to kill Sephi. Cloud went after Sephi, called to him, and then Sephi ran him through like a kebab. Miraculously and by sheer determination, Cloud grabbed the blade and threw Sephi into the reactor, which killed him. The memory ends, and all the clouds from his memories merge into one Cloud. Tifa goes to him, and he tells her, "We finally meet again." I always cry here too. They realize that they're in the live stream and decide to go back to everyone. The live stream sequence is my favorite part of the entire game. It is the emotional centerpiece of the story and the resolution of Cloud's internal conflict. Figuring out what really happened in the Nibelheim incident is crucial to the entire thing. It's key for Cloud accepting himself for who he really is, failures and all, and figuring out that he really is the hero he needed to be for Tifa and for the planet. I'm looking forward to this part in Revelation, especially since Cloud quote-unquote remembers Zack, and him and Tifa already talked about the incident on Mount Nibel. So I wonder how this is going to affect the livestream sequence. I also know that it's going to be expanded, and all the emotional impact of the story beats and character development are going to be on full display. We'll finally see Cloud achieve this acceptance of himself and come to terms with his loss and trauma. It's going to be a full circle and emotional catharsis for his character, and I know they're going to knock it out of the park. We have one more retelling to go through in order to really analyze the Nibelheim incident and what happened after to really show what led to Cloud putting on the soldier persona facade. That's through Zack's version of events in Crisis Core Reunion. Entering the village, it's the same with Sephi asking Cloud how does it feel. It's Zack who asks Seffi about his family. Tifa approaches Zack and asks him if he's a soldier and if there are a lot of first classes. He tells her only a few are, and it's just him and Sephiroth for this mission. She turns around, looks disappointed, then she looks like she wants to say more to him, then shakes her head and takes off. Seffi tells him to sleep early because they leave at dawn. He tells Cloud to visit friends and family if he wishes. Zack asks Cloud why his helmet is still on. He responds that it's personal. Upstairs in the inn, Seffi tells Zack that he's seen the landscape before. The next day, Zack is surprised to see that Tifa is their guide. They take the picture and Tifa brags about being the best guide in town. Their journey up the mountain is documented in pictures, so we don't see what happens with the bridge collapse and the Gunthra River in Zack's version of events. The same scene plays out with Tifa not being allowed inside the reactor, Seffi asking Cloud to keep her safe, Cloud stopping her from going inside, and Tifa being pissed about it. Inside, Zack is shocked to see Genova's name on the door and glances at Seffi, who is nonchalantly walking down the stairs. He finds the malfunction and tells Zack to seal the valve. Seffi wonders to himself why it broke. In this version of events, Seffi is not hacking through the pods. They see the humanoid fiend, and Seffi explains that average soldier members are Mako-infused humans. Zack's enhanced, but he's still human. But what are those things? Their Mako levels are higher than his. Seffi answers that Hojo created them. Monsters are abominations spawned by Mako energy. Zack catches and points out that Seffi had said average soldier members, so he asks what he meant by that. Seffi grabs his head and starts freaking out. Zack tries to help him but is shoved away. Seffi asks himself if he was created the same way. He's having the same existential crisis as the other retellings. Then that bitch Genesis shows up. Now, I don't know if Zack never told this part to Cloud or if Jenova didn't clone this memory, but if I was Cloud, I would delete Genesis from my memory too. Of course, this could be the plot of Crisis Core being ham-fisted into the Nibelheim Incident. We'll see if Revelation includes this and if Genesis will show up at all, since Deep Ground is in the re-trilogy. Genesis tells Seffi that he's a monster and that he's the greatest one created by the Jenova Project. Seffi asks him what the Jenova Project is. He answers that it relates to all things created with the use of Jenova cells. He condescends Sephiroth because he never knew his mother and only knew her name, and tells him that Jenova is a monster. Great business pitch. For after when he asks for Seffi's cells because he's degrading. Sephiroth is Project S and is the perfect monster. His traits can't be copied to others and his genes can't diffuse. Therefore, he can't degrade. According to this explanation and how Genesis looks, we can tell for sure that what Cloud is going through in Rebirth is not degradation. He is from Project S and can't degrade. His problem is that he's a failed Sephiroth clone and is being called to the reunion. It's the combination of that and his PTSD that's causing him to act the way he does. Genesis wants Seffi to eat the dumb apple. Seffi looks at the Jenova plaque and says whether Genesis is lying or telling the truth he's been looking for his entire life, it doesn't matter. He knocks the apple out of Genesis' hands and says, "You will rot." Honestly, I think Sephiroth ate there. No notes. Outside, Genesis clones knock out Cloud. Tifa tells Zack that he tried to protect her. Zack escorts them down the mountain and Tifa helps Cloud walk. When they arrive in the village, Tifa asks Zack what happened. Of course, he can't say. Before leaving, she tells him that she'll ask the villagers about Sephiroth. When Cloud wakes up, Zack tells him that Tifa's safe. Cloud expresses that if only he was in Soldier. Zack cuts him off to warn him that it's a den of monsters. Don't go inside. Cloud asks what happened. Zack replies that he doesn't know and he thought he knew before. Zack asks him if he knows Tifa. Cloud says, sort of, and hides his face. Zack says he senses some issues and suggests he does something. I love Zack, he's such a lovable himbo. Cloud doesn't respond, so Zack says that he's one to talk. He's with Soldier, so fighting is all he does. Sorting things out is someone else's job. He's having a very valid crash out here. Cloud breaks him out of it by saying that he likes Zack's sword. This causes Zack to remember the importance of that sword and of dreams and honor. He tells Cloud that it's a symbol of those dreams and his honor and thanks him for helping him remember. I need to point out here that Zack talks to his sword, so that's why in the Rebirth memory, Sephiroth asks Cloud if he'll talk to his sword. He does squats and then goes to bed. Again, this makes the Rebirth memory make sense. Squats is a big Zack mannerism.
Yeah, I'm getting pumped.
Later, Zack gets mailed about Cloud deciding to go see his mom, and he wants Zack to come with him to try her cooking, and because he feels uncomfortable going alone. This makes me wonder if Cloud actually went to go see his mom, since he was ashamed about not making it in Soldier. The OG didn't clarify this, so I'm hoping the revelation does, and we get to see those gaps in his memory of his visit with her. Maybe Zack does actually go with him. That would also be really sweet. Tifa also sent an email asking if the infantryman was okay, and she wanted to ask Zack about Soldier. She runs in the hotel to tell him that Sephiroth is in Shinra Manor. Cloud shows him the way to the manor. On the way, Zack gets an email from Tifa asking about if there are any blonde guys in Soldier. Any girl would love to have a blonde soldier show up when she's in trouble, but it's no good for her to wait around, so she started to learn how to fight. Of course, we know that she's talking about Cloud and the Promise, but according to traces, she didn't learn how to fight because of waiting around for Cloud. The opportunity found her, and through it, she found something that could be her own. I highly recommend reading Traces of Two Paths. I have several detailed videos about it, please check them out if you haven't yet. Cloud shows him which room Sephi is in. Tifa sends an email requesting that he doesn't tell anyone that she asked about the blonde guy. It's a sweet irony here that the person she's asking about was really there, and is actually the infantryman who tried to protect her that she was concerned about. In the room, Cloud tells him that the underground passage door was unlocked. Maybe Sephi went in there. He finds Sephi reading those books. What's different here is Sephi questioning whether his mother being named Genova and if the Genova Project are coincidences. He wonders why Professor Gast didn't tell him and why did he die. Sephi tells Zack to leave him. It's the same that he was there for 7 days reading like a man possessed. On the 7th day, Zack runs out to see Nibelheim on fire. There's no confrontation in the basement like Cloud recounted in Calm, so I'm wondering if that actually happened between Sephi and Zack but wasn't shown in Crisis Core, or if it's possible that he really did have that confrontation with Cloud. Let me know what you think in the comments or if I missed a crucial detail somewhere. Zack finds Cloud collapsed on the ground in front of his mom's house. Then we get the iconic shot of Sephi in the flames again. He asks himself how Sephiroth could do this. He finds Tifa already injured inside the reactor. She says she hates Shinra, Soldier, and him. She hates them all. He runs after Sephi.
Mother, let's take back the planet together. I had an epiphany. Let's go to the Promised Land. Mother.
Sephiroth! Why did you kill the townspeople? Why did you hurt Tifa? Answer me, Sephiroth!
Mother, they're here again. You should have ruled this planet. You were stronger, smarter. But then they came. Those inferior dullards. They came and took this planet away from you. But don't be sad, Mother. I am with you now. We meet at last, Mother.
Sephiroth! What the hell happened to you? Ah! Sephiroth! I trusted you! Ah! Ah!
He tells Sephiroth that he's not the person he once knew. Sephi tells him that he has been chosen to rule the planet. Zack gets thrown out of the room, and Sephi goes back for Genova. Cloud comes in, grabs the Buster Sword, and runs Sephiroth through. He goes back to hold Tifa and caresses her face. Sephi comes back out while holding Genova's head and tells Cloud, "How dare you?" From the ground, Zack tells Cloud to finish him off.
Sephiroth!
Don't test me. No. Impossible.
Cloud hobbles out of the room and stumbles down the stairs, barely out of Zack's reach. They both black out. Zack barely opens his eyes to see Hojo talking about how this one will make a fine test subject. 4 years later, he breaks out of his Mako pod and then gets Cloud out. Cloud is pretty fucked up from Mako poisoning and is catatonic. Now, the part in Rebirth where Cloud glitches in front of the pods in the basement makes a lot of sense. According to the researcher notes, Zack was a failed experiment because of his strong tolerance to Genova cells as a part of his soldier conditioning. Cloud was a failure for the opposite reason. His lack of tolerance led to Mako poisoning. He's catatonic and unlikely to recover. That should attest to how resilient he really is. Yeah, he's fucked in the head, but because of sheer determination, he survived when it was unlikely. Zack puts him in a spare soldier uniform since his infantry clothing is soaked in Mako. I do believe that this was a great decision to help reduce the effects, but this definitely led to Cloud believing that he was a soldier first class. Zack reads Aerith's wishes and tells the unresponsive Cloud that he has to go to Midgar and asks him to come with him. They're on the run from both Shinra and Genesis, who was wanting to get a Project S sample from Cloud, and right when they're about to reach Midgar on the yellow truck, they get dropped off and Zack hides Cloud. As Zack leaves, Cloud's body finally responds as he reaches his hand to him. Zack faces hundreds of infantry men and is shot and killed.
Zack. For the both of us. Both of us? That's right. You're gonna live. You'll be my living legacy.
My honor. My dreams. They're yours now. I'm your living legacy.
I believe that it's here, with the help of Genova's cloning ability and his PTSD, he takes on Zack's memories and mannerisms. It's not just Zack either, but also Sephiroth and his own ideas about what a soldier is supposed to be. That's why in his first recollection of the Nibelheim Incident, he replaces Zack with himself in the memory, including his mannerisms and way of speaking. The Nibelheim Incident isn't just central to the plot, but a really interesting narrative device. Even though the terms plot and narrative are usually used interchangeably, they are not actually the same. The plot refers to the sequence of events, but with their causes and effects included. Narrative, by contrast, has a more broad-reaching definition. It includes not just the sequence of events and their cause and effect relationships, but also all of the decisions and techniques that impact how a story is told. A narrative is how a given sequence of events is recounted. In Final Fantasy VII, the narrative is really fascinating because it is unreliable, because the person who is telling the story is someone who is losing his mind and sense of self up until the end of the livestream sequence. Cloud being an unreliable narrator is actually a stark understatement. So, the Nibelheim Incident works as a really interesting narrative device, because the Nibelheim Incident is a memory, and memories by nature are unreliable. But that gets turned up to an 11, because Cloud's memories are altered by Jenova, and his PTSD from losing Zack, his mother, his hometown, and nearly losing Tifa, but also from failing to make it into Soldier and failing to save the people he cares about. So with the help of the Jenova cells, he created a false memory where he was the soldier instead of Zack. In the livestream sequence, Tifa tells Cloud, "A memory is something that is consciously recalled. That's why sometimes it can be mistaken or wrong. It's different from a memory locked deep within your heart. Memories are our own narratives we tell ourselves, and they are impacted by our own backgrounds, perceptions, and how we see the world, traumas, mental illnesses, etc. With Cloud's PTSD, the true memory of the incident was locked up in his heart as a way of protection. To understand and break down how Cloud's PTSD affects his memory recall of the incident, I read this article from Psychiatry magazine, and it makes a lot of sense for what is happening to Cloud. Understanding trauma in the brain. Trauma occurs when an experience overwhelms a person's ability to cope. This may involve a single event, such as an accident or assault, or ongoing exposure to stress, neglect, or abuse. Trauma can be physical, emotional, psychological, or relational. When the brain detects danger, it activates survival systems designed to keep us alive. These systems change how information is processed and stored. Of course, we know that the incident in question is the Nibelheim Incident, but I also believe it's the one on Mount Nibel. Key brain areas involved in trauma and memory. Amygdala detects threat and triggers fear responses. Hippocampus organizes and stores memories with time and context. Prefrontal cortex, responsible for reasoning, focus, and decision making. During trauma, the amygdala becomes highly active, while the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex may function less effectively. This imbalance plays a major role in trauma-related memory problems. We can see with his memory recall the hippocampus is really affected. Physical effects of trauma: fatigue, headaches, sleep disturbances, muscle tension. These effects are interconnected. When the nervous system remains on high alert, the brain has fewer resources available for memory and learning. We especially see this with his Genova headaches, or when he glitches, as I put it. We can also see how his muscles tense. We can also see that sometimes he collapses from these headaches and glitches and memory recall. They really paid attention to detail with how Cloud physically responds when his PTSD is activated. Why does trauma suppress memories? Memory suppression is one of the brain's most powerful protective strategies. When experiences are too overwhelming, the brain may limit access to certain memories to prevent emotional overload. Memory suppression as protection. Trauma-related memory suppression may involve partial amnesia, emotional detachment from memories, fragmented recall. This allows the person to continue functioning despite overwhelming experiences. This is literally Cloud's brain trying to protect him so he can operate at a somewhat functional level, but it affects how he recalls his memories. Dissociation and memory. Dissociation is a common trauma response that can affect memory. It may feel like zoning out, feeling disconnected from reality, losing chunks of time. When dissociation occurs, memories may not be fully stored, making recall difficult later. This explains partly why he doesn't remember things that he should. Repressed versus inaccessible memories. It is important to distinguish between myths and neuroscience. Repressed memories imply memories are completely hidden. Inaccessible memories are stored but difficult to retrieve. Trauma memories are often state-dependent, meaning they are more accessible when a person feels unsafe or triggered. There are a lot of memories that he has repressed, and there are some that are inaccessible. It's through the livestream sequence that with Tifa's help, they are able to go deep into his consciousness to help him retrieve these memories. Types of memory problems linked to trauma. Trauma affects memory in different ways depending on the individual and the type of trauma experienced. Intrusive memories, flashbacks, nightmares, sudden emotional recall. These memories feel vivid because they are stored with strong emotional activation. This is why when he glitches, his flashbacks are so vivid and affect him so bad. All this information gives context on why he initially recalls the Nibelheim incident the way he does. But him replacing Zack is, I believe, the doing of the Genova cells. We can also see how Tifa fits into all of this as well, even though she doesn't have Genova cells, and it's therefore less complicated for her. She also has head trauma and injuries that have caused the partial amnesia, in particular the incident on Mount Nibel. That's why she doubts herself when Cloud's account of the Nibelheim incident conflicts with hers. And it's also why I believe she is integral to being there to help facilitate things in the livestream sequence. This involves her memories too, we gotta remember that. Her memory being her internal narrative is also unreliable. We see that because Cloud was there, she just didn't know it. The livestream sequence is crucial to understanding the centerpiece of Final Fantasy VII, the Nibelheim Incident, because it's how they uncover the true memory. And it's through uncovering the true memory that they are finally finding the real Cloud and can really start with his healing journey. I'm very excited to see it all unfold next spring when Revelation comes out, and with the recent comments from Cody Christian at Kawakan, we're really going to see Cloud come to this resolution and we will all be crying. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really love the Nibelheim Incident and find it to be a brilliant plot and narrative device. As someone who suffers from CPTSD, it is something that helps me with my own healing journey with self-acceptance and having the courage to face my own trauma. I hope that you all enjoyed this video and that I was able to stimulate some thoughts and impressions. Please feel free to share them in the comments, and of course, point out anything I missed or some point that you have found that I didn't. This is also a reminder to please refrain from shipping debates in the comments. I will remove such comments as I want this to not become a toxic place, and I want to have discussions about the more important points and themes that I explored in this video essay. Please treat each other with kindness and respect. I will remove anything that is hateful. Also, if you haven't yet, please like, comment, and subscribe. From now on, I'm going to be putting out a video essay once a month. I stream twice a week, and I have book club streams at the end of every month. I would love to see you all there. And with that, I'm off. Bye!